Okay, a couple shows back, I made the point that punk, as far as I know, is a gay slur, especially when it's used as a sports term, as in players saying, we got punked tonight, as in we got bullied, we got physically dominated, maybe on the boards. Or sports commentators saying, they just got punked. But as I concluded, apparently the gay community is not offended by this reference. I'm not sure what the reaction was to the point that I don't think anybody had ever made before. I don't follow it, but my wife Ernestine, my social media watchdog, did make me aware of, I believe it was an awful announcing article about my punked point that didn't seem to take a stand pro or con about the point I was making, but did point out that I once implied that LeBron was a bitch and that I called Chris Bosh Bosch Spice. So, said this critic, it's interesting to see where Bayless draws the line. Okay, number one. Quick sip before I dive and unleash. Draymond Green loudly called LeBron a bitch during Game 4 of the NBA Finals. That was the final straw that got Draymond suspended, of course, for Game 5 back home at Oracle. And I did call LeBron Prince James until he finally won his first championship. Remember, it's about damn time. But I don't ever remember implying that LeBron was a bitch. I just talked about how that's exactly what Draymond called him on the floor, audibly enough for Kiki Vandeweghe, the Minister of Justice for the NBA at that point, to hear it in the whatever row he was in, second or third row. Got him suspended. Okay, so here's what happened with Chris Bosh. On the Tuesday night of January the 8th of 2011, the Heatles, as everybody was calling them, lost at home to Portland. Score was 105 to only 96 for the Heatles at home. That was the fifth straight loss for this new super team of LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh. And, of course, the criticism at that point had focused squarely and solely on Bosh for not holding up his end of the three-star bargain. That night, LeBron had gone for 31, 11, and 8, pretty great, while D-Wade had contributed 36 and 6 and 5, dynamic duo, but not trio. That night, Chris Bosh shot 3 of 11 from the floor, shot only one free throw. He did make it, but he wound up with only 7 points and only 4 rebounds with 0 assists and 0 blocks. What? He was supposed to be the big of the big three. 6 feet 11 inches tall, big, but only 4 rebounds and 0 blocks. So as that game ground to a close, I don't know what prompted it. I was thinking of Bosh, and then I was thinking of Posh, and then I was thinking of Bosch Spice, who at that point was known as the most sort of girly girl of the Spice Girls, the most demure, the softest. Again, Chris Bosh, 6 feet 11 inches tall, had averaged 10 boards a game the previous 5 All-Star seasons he had played in Toronto for the Raptors. 10 boards a game. Bosh was playing incredibly soft at that point. He was killing Heat fans softly, killing him softly. So in the heat of the late night moment, I just plunged and I went with it. I tweeted Bosch Spice, not Posh Spice, Bosch Spice. I thought adding that one word said it all, Bosch Spice. That's exactly the way he was playing at that point. Now, that Heat team, as you recall, did make it all the way to the NBA Finals, but flamed out in games 4, 5, and 6. Or should I say LeBron epic failed in 4, 5, and 6. Chosen one became frozen one. But the next September, before the season started, Chris Bosh did have the guts to come all the way to Bristol, Connecticut, to the mothership, to ESPN, had the courage to sit across from me on First Take on live national TV and ask me on behalf of his family and himself that I not use Bosch Spice anymore. I told Chris there was one simple solution, one simple way to prevent me from ever again using that nickname. Just keep playing up to the all-star standards he set for himself in those 5 years in Toronto. And he had played big for the Heat down the stretch of that first season, especially in the playoffs, particularly in the finals. Then he continued to play bigger and bigger in the finals wins over the Thunder and the Spurs. Listen, Chris Bosh has genuine class and dignity. I obviously never had anything personal against him. How could I? How could anybody? That nickname was perfectly fitting when I used it, yet he vowed to do this, and he actually performed it right out of my vocabulary. After he came to Bristol and sat across from me, I never again used it. On TV, on what was then Twitter, on any social media. Yet, I have been known for a lot of the nicknames that I did originate. These nicknames are not Chris Berman type nicknames. I respect those, but these, there's just nothing silly about the nicknames I come up with. They're piercingly, sometimes scathingly clever because they cut to the mostly negative essence of a player. So, since this did come up, allow me to list my favorites. This, believe it or not, is my all-time favorite that I pinned on a player you might or might not remember, which was the point of the nickname. Kyle Bowler was a first-round draft choice of the Baltimore Ravens. I think it was 2003. Kyle Bowler wound up starting 47 NFL games through 48 touchdown passes to 54 interceptions. He was out of the league by the time he was 30. So back in my cold pizza days, I started calling him Kyle, I should have been a bowler. Kyle, I should have been a bowler. That sure made Jay Crawford laugh. Tell me that nickname didn't nail Kyle Bowler's career. Tell me that wasn't the nickname worth 1,000 words. And so was this one that I gave to T.O., as in Terrell Owens, Team Obliterator. By the way, I did an interview a few days back for my guy Mike Hill for a documentary on Terrell Owens. It's going to run this fall, I think on Thursday night on Amazon Prime around the NFL package, the Thursday night football game. So I thought a lot about Terrell Owens this past week. Interview went for maybe 3 hours. I know a lot about T.O. We've done battle against each other on live national TV as I did with Chris Bosh. I don't know. I've done this with Terrell 5 times maybe. 5 or 6 times. Always enjoyed our sessions. Always thought they were productive. Each time I actually liked Terrell a little more. So again, nothing personal involved here. He's got a good sense of humor. Interesting guy. Deep thinker. But I did cover his first team, the 49ers. I knew several players Then on his second team, which was the Eagles, I knew several players on his third team, my Dallas Cowboys. And I can just tell you that no player in history has ever done this. Terrell Owens polarized and split all three locker rooms. Half the players loved him and would just effectively die for him in awe of his explosive ability. And by the way, I think he was the greatest deep threat I saw this side of Randy Moss. Just played with rage. Didn't time that fast, 4.63, coming out of Tennessee, Chattanooga. But man, could he will himself past DBs for deep balls. But the other half of those three locker rooms just despised him as an egomaniacal self-promoter, more interested in stats and publicity stunts than winning. And then T.O. publicly, personally attacked his quarterback in San Francisco, Jeff Garcia. He did the same to Donovan McNabb in Philly. And then one of the greatest coaches ever, Bill Parcells, despised Terrell so much that Bill Parcells wouldn't even speak his name to the media, just kept referring to Terrell as the player. Ugh. Bill Parcells? So the truth was and is T.O., team obliterator, scathingly accurate. And I can't wait to see the documentary because Terrell Owens has lived a life. Which brings me to Joe Flacco, whom I started calling Joe Fluco because I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback be more average during regular seasons and off the charts all-time great in playoff runs. I've never seen anything like it, but you pay him all this money, and then in regular seasons, he turns out to be Fluco. How about the NBA? How about me, myself, and Iverson? Can't say it much better. All-world ability, me, myself, and Iverson. How about Russell Westbrook? The worst jump shooting point guard ever. LeBron campaigned to make him a Laker. And that year, he shot 29.4% from three, which was the worst in the league. Russell Westbrook 4 times led the league in turnovers. 4 other times he was second. Just a pathetic shooter. Westbrook, I started in 2012, was unfortunately extremely accurate in ways he never was as a shooter. But there was a point guard before him, this one in Dallas, who for a few years rivaled Russ's poor shooting as a point guard. That was Jason Kidd, who actually taught himself a pretty reliable, dependable set shot from three in the back half of his career. He became somebody you could count on from three. But early on in Dallas, I called him Asen Kid because there was no J in Jason, no jump shot. He had no J. Then, of course, speaking of Dallas and the Mavericks, there's Luka Doncic because there's no D in his last name because he plays no D, as the Lakers found out as they got gentlemen's swept by the Timberwolves in the first round of this year's playoffs. Paul George occasionally played like he was just some George Paul, so I referred to him occasionally as he went George Paul. Then, of course, there was Zaza Pachulia was the guy with his size, I don't know what it was, 25 sneaker that he slipped under the landing spot of Kawhi Leonard in Game 1 at Oracle against those Golden State Warriors with the Spurs that I loved at that time in charge of that Game 1. And Kawhi came down on that size 25 sneaker, and it was Zaza Pachulia shot because Kawhi was gone for the rest of that series, which the Spurs quickly fell apart and lost. I do like the scathingly accurate name that I've given to Anthony Edwards, Can't Man, not Ant-Man, Can't Man, and he's been living down to that nickname the last 2 playoff runs. How about baseball? Back in my days in the Bay Area, Jeff Kent was supposed to be able to protect Barry Bonds, make him harder to pitch to, hitting behind him. But he was very often, all too often, Jeff can't. Jeff can't. Nope, Jeff can't. And then, this is from my old friend Rob Parker, Yankee fan that he is, I would often call Yankees pitcher CC Sabathia, can't count on Sabathia. CC can't count on Sabathia. It always made Rob laugh painfully. I could go on, but I won't. Nicknames worth 10,000 words.